Okay, good morning. So in the last video, we discussed about this changing in the countryside, right? In this topic, we discussed about different kind of change happened in this rural area, right? Village area. And we discussed about strategies for increasing the production in rural area. We also discussed about the different kind of social groups in rural area, and we also discussed about the land grants and all something to do with the rural during the time, right? Ancient time. Now today we are going to discuss about towns and trade, right? Topic point number 6 of your chapter number 2, towns and trade. In this towns and trade, we are going to discuss about urban centers, right? Cities. We are going to study about city in the ancient India. So within this, we have this first subtopic. Today we are going to discuss about, and the first 6.1 new cities. In this, we are going to discuss about different kind of city that was emerged in 6th century, this ancient India. So we are going to discuss on it. In this second, the urban population, elites and crop productions, right? Crop persons. In this, we're going to discuss about how do we historians know about the urban centers, right? Sources to know about urban centers and what kind of people live in these urban centers. Like elites means powerful and these rich people, right? Like kings and these ministers. And then crop persons means artisans. Right? So we are going to discuss on it. Then 6.3 we are going to discuss about trade in the subcontinent and beyond. So that means trade. Trade means is a kind of buying and selling of these commodities or product, right? So in subcontinent means in India, and beyond means outside India. So we are going to discuss on it. Then last of this topic, in town and trade, we are going to discuss about coin and king. Now coin and king, importance of coin and how coin help us to know about the different kind of dynasties and kings, right? So today we are going to discuss on it. Now first 6.1 and 6.2 we are going to discuss about the trade, town at the time, right? And then 6.3 and 6.4 we are going to discuss about trade, right? Okay, now we move to the first topic, that is new cities. Now as you all know that, right, urban center or urban cities emerged in India in the 6th century BC with the emergence of 16 Mahajana Prathas. Even in the 19th centuries, most of the historians mention that Indian history started from 6th century BC because they think that why they call it Indian history started from 6th century BC, because they know that in 6th century BC there were many kingdom or many city emerged in India. So that's why urban center emerged from 6th century BC, that is 16 Mahajana Prathas, and among these Magadha was most powerful, right? You know about it. Now, during the ancient time, there were different kind of cities were there, towns were there. There were political cities, towns were there were religious towns were there were economic towns were there were commercial towns were there were administration towns were there, different kind of towns were there, right? If you look over here in this map, see, in this map, if you look at over here, it's Patliputra, right? Patliputra is the capital city, capital of this Magad and Maurya, right? So Patliputra is very important political as well as commercial town. Then we have this Ujjain and Taksali, right? Very important on the long distance trade. These two, Ujjain and Taksali, are very important on the long distance this road, right? Route. These are two important towns. And then we have Mathura. Mathura is a very important religious and cultural town of ancient India because, as you know, right, Kushanas have made this Mathura as their second capital during the BCs, right? So these kind of different towns were there in ancient India, right? Now, and you know that most of the towns or cities were located on this trade route, right? Most of the cities and towns were located on trade route. Why? Because if they made their cities or town on the trade route, so through that the king used to get a tax. Right? They collect the tax from the people. They do the business within their kingdom. So that is one important factor. Because of that, you can get this tax, right? So most of the town located on a trade route, right? See, as right now I told you, right? We have this Patliputra on riverine route. Patliputra near the Ganga and a tributary zone, right? So it is Patliputra is near this riverine communication route, right? And then we have this Ujjain and Taksali are on a long distance trade route, right? So through that way they get lots of benefit by doing this trade with other country or within the India itself. Understood? So not only that, we have also found a port city in southern India, Puhar. Right? It's a very important port city of this Chola's capital of Chola. Right? See in your map, Puhar over here, right? Puhar. In the exam, there may be a 6 marks. 6 marks. This question on your marks. So see, Puhar is a very important port. Cities of Tamil Nadu serve as a capital of early Chola king. Right? Chola king, you know about the Tamilingam, right? Chola, Cheras and Pandyas. So this is all about different kind of cities were there in ancient India. Now we move to the next topic, that is urban population, elites and crop productions. Now urban population means city, right? Now population means urban center where people used to live, urban center. And elites means, as I told you, right, these powerful people and these kings and ministers, and crop person means artisans. So in this topic we are going to learn about how do archaeology know about the urban centers during the ancient time, and also what kind of people live in these urban centers, right? So we are going to discuss on it. Now, as you know that, right, in ancient time, king and this minister used to live in these fortified cities, right? We know that kings and these ruling elites means that ministers, they live in fortified cities. Yes, of course we know about it, right? Most of the Mahajana Pratas has their own capital which was fortified. We know about it. But that is not satisfied reason to tell that this area belongs to urban center because only forts were there. No. What archaeology need more kind of sources to know about where is the urban center, right? Location of urban center. So what they do, they did excavation during the 19th centuries. They tried to do the excavations, right? They tried to find out about the urban center. Now what they did, when they do the excavation, but it is very difficult to do extensive excavation because during the 19th centuries, people living in this area, if you remember, see, difficult to conduct extensive means huge, right? Huge, extensive, because people live in this area even today. If you remember here in this map, if you look at over here, this, Mahajanapada 6th century BC's area, right? Over here in the 19th century, people used to live in this area, right? So it is very difficult to evacuate this place and do this, excavation because people still live in this area, right? Where these ancient Mahajanapadas was happened. So it is very difficult to, archaeology to do the extensive excavation. Because how do they evacuate the people, right? But fortunately, archaeology found a different kind of artifacts, right? Through that artifact, they know that this area belongs to urban center. Now, many artifacts were given in your textbook, right? The coins were there, different kind of potteries were there, ornaments were there, tools were there, weapons were there, right? But one of the most important, artifact that they found was one pottery, that is northern black polish ware, right? This kind of, see, historian found various artifact, as I told you, right? But northern black polish ware is the abbreviation is NBPW is the abbreviation, right? It's northern black polish ware. And 1 marks question also. Pottery probably used by a rich people. See, this is a northern black polish ware pottery that found in the some of the central city area, right? Now, as you have studied about this, in the Harappan culture, archaeology has found this Fian pot, right? Only in the Mohenjo-daro and Harappan culture. So what archaeology said, archaeology mentioned that this area, this Fian pot is for the luxurious people, a luxurious item. Why? Because it's only found in these urban centers. So through that way, they categorize these artifacts into luxurious and utilitarian. Remember? So it's just like that in this medieval period, right? During the ancient, not medieval, sorry, during that ancient period, 6th century BC, right? When archaeology tried to do the excavation, they found that kind of pottery. So to make this kind of pottery, people need some kind of skill, right? Amount of skill, and on that raw material for make this kind of pottery is quite expensive. So archaeology assumed that this kind of pottery were used by the rich and elite people. So through that way, archaeology mentioned that this area belongs to urban center. Understood? So, second artifact or second evidence that archaeology sources that archaeology found to mention about this urban center is they found many days on a votive inscription. You see, by the 2nd century BC, right? We found, archaeology or historian found short votive inscription. Now remember, there's a 1 mark question in your exam. What is votive inscription, right? Votive inscription is a kind of inscription which recorded the gift made for the religious institution, right? Gift made for religious institution, just like this, you know. Just like this, you know, votive inscription. Okay, let me give you an example. Suppose our school building is, you know, donated by the Honorable Chief Minister of the Karnataka, the B.S. Yedurappa. So on the wall of the school building, what we wrote, donated by Honorable Chief Minister B.S. Yedurappa on 2nd century BC, just like that, right? Now what happened? Sometime on this votive inscription, the name of the donor and or sometimes occupations were also written on this inscription. Very beautiful, right? Some of the inscription, most of the votive inscription on that, it mentioned the donor and sometimes occupation also. Just like I told you right now, right? The school building was donated by B.S. Yedurappa, right? B.S. Yedurappa, Chief Minister, and his occupation is, he is politician, right? He is Chief Minister of Karnataka. And the time is 2nd century BC, just assume. So through that way, we know about what kind of people live in this area, right? So through that way, votive inscriptions and so other different kind of inscription, we know that what kind of people live in these urban centers. So there are different kind of people live in this center, right? Through that inscription, just like votive inscription and many other inscriptions, we know that different kind of people live in this area. Just like the people live in this town were weavers, right? Used to do with these cottons and these textiles. Then carpenters, then potter, right? Then we have goldsmith, then we have ironsmith, then we have merchant, then we have king. Those kind of people, a group of people live in the urban center. We know about these through the various inscriptions. Understood? And then another very important inscription that we found is mentioned about the guilt or shameless. Now see, guilt or shameless. Sometimes inscription also mention about this guilt or shameless. Right? Now what is guilt? Guilt is an English word, right? And shameless is a Hindi word. Now guilt here means association or group of people who work together as a merchant or artisans, craft person, just like here. Sometimes guild or shameless, organization of craft producer and merchant are mentioned as well. In some inscription, it also mentioned what is their work. Their work is to, they are just like cooperative societies. What they do, they combine together. They among these they make different kind of products, and sometimes they use do this import and export. So they carry the goods from one place to another. They act like a merchant and also act like a artisans, craft persons. So they are very popular during that ancient time. So through that way we know about urban center and what kind of people live in the urban centers, right? Okay. Now third, we are going to discuss about trade in the subcontinent and beyond, right? Trade means, as I told you, right, this process of buying and selling of goods, right? And the subcontinent, in the subcontinent means in India itself. India itself is subcontinent, and beyond means outside the India, right? Outside the India, here and here, right? Now, trade with subcontinent and beyond is not that much new during the 6th century BC, because we know, right, India, because we know that India has a trade relationship with this Mesopotamia and Oman, right, during the Indus Valley civilization. We know about it, right? So that is not that much new, right? India has a trade relationship during the Harappan culture. Since from Harappan culture we have a trade relationship, right? This Oman and this Meluha and Mughal, right? Oman and this Harappan Mesopotamian civilization, right? But what happened during the 6th century BC? The expand of this trade relationship with other countries will expand as compared to earlier Indus Valley civilization. Now see, from this Arabian Sea, now from the Arabian Sea to the North Africa, right? North Africa here refers to this Sudan, Egypt, and the Algeria, Morocco, this area, right? Map is not that much big enough, right? In this area, right? And West Asia. Now India is a South Asia, right? Then we have this Central Asia, Southern area. Now West Asia means this area where this Middle East nations, right? We have this Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Oman. Then we have Iran, Iraq, Kuwait. Then we have this Jordan, Turkey, right? Syria. All these are Western Asia. So India has a trade relationship with this from the Arabian Sea to North Africa and West Asia. Understood? Then from the Bay of Bengal to China and this Southeast Asian nation, right? Southeast Asia. Now China, as we know, right? We know about it. China is our very good friend. And then we have this Southeast Asian nation. Right? Southeast Asian nation consists of this Vietnam, Cambodia, Philippines, Malaysia, right? Thailand, and the Myanmar. All those kind of nations belongs to Southeast Asia. So from the Bay of Bengal, they have a trade relationship with this area. So see, not only that, India has also trade relationship with this Roman Empire, right? Very big empire, huge empire during the BCs, right? So now the thing is here is most of the king, they try to control the trade route, right? Well, why they try to control the trade route? Because to gain the tax. Suppose if I control the trade route, the merchant or the trader, they need to go to here and there, right? So what they do, the king used to collect the tax, and on that, what they do, if they pay the tax, they provide the production. During that time, trades were not that much safe enough, right? Lots of dacoits were there. So through that way, it is one advantage for the king to control this trade route to gain more taxes. Understood? Now, not only that, different kind of commodities, the things were different kind of things were carried from here to there, one place to another, just things like that. Wide range of goods were carried from one place to another, just like grains, right? Then we have spices. Then we have metal ores, right? Iron ores or copper ores. Then we have finished product. So these are the kind of product that used to carry from one place to another. Now, one interesting thing about India is, in the ancient time, right? India is very popular for their spices, especially the paper, right? Paper, erma, we call it erma, right? Very popular in this Roman Empire, in this Middle East nation. So, on the textile, Indian textile, very important. So we have this kind of history, we have this information about in the ancient India, these spices, this textile from India were carried from India to this Roman Empire and other nations. We have that kind of information or history mentioned by the different kind of this historians. Understood? See, some spices like this paper, erma, were highly demanded in the Roman Empire. Right? The Roman Empire is a contemporary with this the Magad and modern empire. Right? And not only that, textile and medicine plants were transported from the Arabian Sea to Mediterranean Sea. Now here, if you see Mediterranean Sea is we consider as the heart of the Roman Empire. Right? Roman Empire happened in this Italy, right? We know about it. So see, trade relationship with other countries were also there during the this ancient period, right? But as compared to Harappan culture, trade relation expand a lot. Understood? Okay, now today the last topic that we are going to discuss about coin and king. Now, coin, as I told you in this previous video, right? Coin is one of the most important sources to know about the kings and different kind of dynasty, right? With the help of coin, we know about the different kind of kings, and it help us to arrange the chronological order of the dynasty in a very sequence or proper way, right? Now, in the ancient time, there were different coins were there. We have a gold coin, we have silver coin, we have this copper coin were also there, right? Different kind of coins were there. Now, those person who study about the coin, who is expert about the study the coin, we call them as a numismatic, right? Numismatic are the person who are very, scholar or expert in study of the coin. Right? Those who are very expert in study about the inscriptions are called epigraphy, right? So 1 marks portion is there. What do you understand by numismatic? So you need to learn it, right? Now numismatic reconstruct means try to find out the history by studying the coin, by looking at the coin, then they tell us a story about the ancient India, right? We have this James Prince Shipwright who deciphered the Bahami and Kharosthi script, you know about it. Right. Then coin tell us about, as I told you, right? Coin tell us about the specific ruling dynasty and about the king. Right? As I told you in the previous video, I described you about this different kind of chronological of the dynasty in ancient time. How do we know about it? Because with the help of coin. With the help of coin, we know about the different kind of dynasty in a very chronological order or sequence way. Understood? So now we see the earliest coin to be mint, means to make, was punch mark coin, right? Punch in the 6th century BC. It's a punch mark coin. Why it is called punch mark coin? Because the shape itself, look like punched, right? See, the front and back side of the coin, right? It's a punch, and it is in the 1 mark. That's also a 1 mark question. First coin to be mint was punch mark coin in 6th century BC, right? Understood? So this is the first coin to be minted or made in the ancient India. Later on, we have different kind of coins over there, right? Gold coin, silver coin over there. Then, now, first coin to have name and image of the king was into Greek. Now, first coin issued during the 6th century BC, right? Now, first coin which contained the name and image of the king were introduced by into Greek king. Now, who is into Greek king? You know about Alexander the Great, right? Around 180s, right? During the Mauryan Empire, the Indo-Greek they have lots of war between this Indo-Greek and Mauryan Empire around this the northwestern area, like the Gandhari and Taksali. Right? Later on, with the decline of Mauryan Empire, the Indo-Greek king they have a control on this Afghanistan, Pakistan, and most part of this northwest area, right? And one important king of this Indo-Greek king was Demetrius, right? Demetrius, very important king. Now, why we call them as Indo-Greek king? Because they were Greek, but culturally they are Greek, right? But why do we call it Indo? Means because they imbibe or they contain, they adopt some kind of this culture of India, right? Even they rule some part of India, so that's why we call them Indo-Greek, just like Indo-Aryan we have, right? Indo-Aryan. Understood? So, next we have this first gold coin, right? Also, first gold coin was issued by Kushan in 1st century BC, as I told you, right? First gold coin in India was issued by Kushanas, right? They provided, they were the first person to, first ruling dynasty in India to introduce the gold coin, right? They also were the first king to adopt the divine title like Devaputra, as we have discussed before. Understood? Then lots of the Indian coins were found in this Roman Empire, right? In India itself, we found lots of these Roman coins. So that clearly shows that there was some kind of trade relationship between this Roman Empire and India, because Roman coins were found in India in both north and south, in Tamil area, right? And not only that, Indian products, Indian artifacts were also found in this Roman Empire. So that clearly shows that there was some kind of trade relationship during that time. Not only that, there were many tribal kings, right? Bankers, they also introduced a new coin during that time. And then we have Yodhias of these Haryanas and the Punjab. They also introduced a different kind of coin during that time. Understood? So on the whole, that is all about what we are going to discuss about. And in this coin and king, the 1 marks question was numismatic 1 marks question. Then we have punch mark coin, first coin to be mint, punch mark coin. Then we have first coin contain the name and the image of the king were introduced by Indo-Greek king, right? Then we have first gold coin were issued by Kushanas. So these are the 1 mark question that you need to learn. Understood? So that's for today. And next topic we are going to learn in next video. Thank you.